Is that electric wheelchair just for show?" The words crashed through the peaceful atmosphere of Rusty Mug Cafe like a hammer-shattering glass. A trio of men sporting weathered leather vests stood by the dessert counter, grinning maliciously at the woman seated near the window. Trinity Hayes didn't even raise her head. At 26, she had fair skin and delicate features, with auburn hair loosely gathered in a messy bun. Her slender, elegant fingers moved with practiced composure, the kind of patience only learned through suffering. She wore an oversized flannel, covering a graphic tee while her lower body remained motionless, not by choice but because an automobile collision 7 years prior had robbed her of that freedom. Her electric wheelchair emitted a gentle hum as it sat positioned by the front window, basking in the morning sunlight. This was her preferred spot. Peaceful, warm, typically unnoticed. But not today. "Looks like they've installed a portable parking meter in here," snickered the tallest biker, Red. His companions, Vic and Lenny, chortled behind him. Red stepped closer and nudged the back of Trinity's chair with his boot tip. She startled, not from pain, but from the unexpected contact. The bowl of chili she was serving herself wobbled on the tray across her lap. A crimson droplet landed on the white cloth tied around her wrist, a handmade napkin from her deceased mother, the only item she carried with her daily. "Sorry about that," Red remarked without a hint of sincerity, watching the dark stain bloom across the fabric. A young boy dining with his father near the coffee machine noticed the interaction. He couldn't have been older than 10. His gaze fixed on Trinity's expressionless face. Her lips remained sealed. Her hands didn't reach for a napkin. She simply inhaled deeply, a deliberate breath heavy with years she never chose. Throughout the cafe, the employees froze. The waitress behind the counter glanced at the bikers, then busied herself reorganizing sugar packets that were already perfectly aligned. No one moved, no one intervened. In that moment, Trinity felt completely isolated. "Did you hear that, fellas?" Red announced loudly. "Not even a thank you." Trinity turned slightly, her unwavering pale green eyes meeting his. She didn't blink. She didn't respond, but her silence carried weight. The boy tugged at his father's sleeve. The middle-aged man, sporting a mustache and wearing a fire department hoodie, observed for a moment before discreetly retrieving his phone from under the table and typing with urgency. Finally, Trinity slowly wheeled herself toward the kitchen area. Her wheels gave off a faint squeak. Chili dripped from her skirt onto the tiled floor. She didn't attempt to clean it. That napkin, her mother's, hung from her wrist, stained like a flag at half-mast. 10 miles away, a phone vibrated on. A dusty nightstand in a rundown motel. Amia Cross stirred from her light sleep. She had dozed off fully clothed, boots still on, arms folded across her chest, back resting against the headboard. Her phone screen illuminated with a message. "She needs you." Red struck again. "It's bad." Amia sat upright, eyes narrowing. The room was dimly lit. A partially packed duffel bag rested against the door. She hadn't intended to return to this town. Not now. Not like this. She stared at the message, fingers hovering over the screen before. Setting the phone aside, she reclined again. Silence returned, but the stained napkin, the boy's concerned gaze, Trinity's composure, they resonated more powerfully than any alarm. 5 minutes later, Amia was driving her truck. The heater rattled as she turned onto the 2-lane highway, heading toward Rusty Mug Cafe. She didn't switch on the radio or check the rearview mirror. She just drove, jaw clenched, her military dog tags cold against her skin. Amia Cross disliked old roads. They reminded her of places she'd rather forget. Places where silence wasn't tranquility, but tension stretched tight between heartbeats. Yet here she was, knuckles white on the steering wheel. No music, just the low rumble of tires against fractured asphalt. The town appeared on the horizon. Same water tower, same church steeple, same gas station with its rusted open sign, though. It hadn't dispensed fuel in 2 years. She hated that these details remained etched in her memory. As she passed the faded "Welcome to Brentford" sign, her phone buzzed again. Mr. Nolan says Red's still at the cafe. Trinity didn't go home. She's just sitting there. Amia parked behind the Rusty Mug Cafe and cut the engine. She remained seated, breathing deeply to calm her nerves. Trinity, the image of her, rushed back. Not in the cafe, not in tears, but years. Ago on the porch swing at her aunt's house, engaged in passionate discussion about poetry. Trinity was sharp that way. Gentle, yes, but never intellectually soft. She had been the only person who stayed when Amia returned from deployment, emotionally shut down and broken. While others gave space, Trinity brought soup and companionable silence. The kind of silence that conveys, "You don't owe me anything, but you're not alone." Amia exited the truck and zipped her coat. The cold air bit at her cheeks. She took the long route around the block, allowing the walk to temper her anger. She wasn't here for confrontation, but she'd fight if necessary. Inside the cafe, the lunch rush had dwindled into mid-afternoon lethargy. A few patrons lingered over half-finished coffees and old newspapers. Trinity sat at her usual window seat, gaze unfocused, hands folded in her lap. Her stained napkin was neatly tied at her wrist again, but the chili mark remained. Amia entered, without fanfare. No one noticed except Trinity. Her head lifted slightly, and when their eyes met, Amia gave a subtle nod. Trinity's expression didn't change, but her eyes glistened. Amia slid into the booth across from her. "I'm here," she said quietly. Trinity's voice was barely audible. "I didn't ask." "I know." A silence passed between them, the kind born of trust, not tension. A waitress approached, chewing gum aggressively. "You want menus?" Amia looked up. "Number 2, please." The waitress departed. "You shouldn't have come," Trinity murmured. Amia raised an eyebrow. "Shouldn't or didn't expect?" Trinity looked away. Outside, a motorcycle rumbled past. It wasn't Red's, not yet, but the sound visibly tensed Trinity's shoulders. "They shoved me yesterday," she stated flatly. "I didn't fall. Not exactly, but they made me feel like I had." "You did fall," Amia replied. "You fell into a silence that allowed them to laugh." Trinity blinked. No one stood up. "I know." Another pause. "Why are you really here?" Trinity asked, her voice tinged with hurt rather than accusation. Amia hesitated. She wanted to say, "Because you were there for me when I couldn't even speak my own name." But what emerged was, "Because if I don't show up now, what's the purpose? Of all the strength I've built." She reached into her coat pocket and extracted a folded square, a cleaning cloth, soft and pristine. Gently, she replaced Trinity's stained napkin with it. "This isn't to replace what you lost," she explained. "It's so you can carry something new when we move forward." Trinity's fingers trembled as they touched the cloth. For the first time in 24 hours, she exhaled with something resembling relief. "Are you planning to fight them?" she asked. "No," Amia answered. "I'm planning to show the town what it truly looks like when someone stands beside you." Outside, the sky had shifted from gray to silver. A boy passed by the window and waved, and Trinity, for the first time that day, waved back. The following day, the bikers returned. It was just after 11 a.m., the sun hanging low and distant above Brentford, as if it had more important matters elsewhere. Inside the Rusty Mug Cafe, Trinity Hayes was already in her usual window spot, napkin carefully folded, tray steady across, her lap, chin raised. Amia Cross sat opposite her, nursing black coffee that had long gone cold. She had insisted on accompanying Trinity, not to hover, just to be present, a witness that couldn't be dismissed. Red entered first, boots thudding like distant thunder on linoleum. Vic and Lenny followed, one chomping gum, the other fidgeting, with a keychain that resembled brass knuckles. The atmosphere shifted, chairs creaked. A spoon clinked against ceramic. No one spoke. "Look who's got company," Red remarked, eyes landing on Amia. "Upgraded the accessories, huh?" Amia remained motionless, Her eyes met his, expressionless and steady. "Didn't know the cafe offered security services," Lenny added, grinning. "Maybe we should get ourselves some too." Trinity spoke then, her voice calm but clear. "You're not funny, you're not welcome, and you're not invisible anymore." That quiet declaration cut through the room like a warm blade through cold butter. Red's smirk faltered. Amia leaned forward, her voice low. "We're not here to argue, but you're done making her feel insignificant." Vic laughed. "You think you frighten us?" "No," Amia replied, reaching into her jacket. "But this might." She held up her phone, displaying a paused video, one showing Red tipping Trinity's wheelchair, followed by the mockery, the slurs, the sneers. "You've gone viral. 3,000 views overnight. Brentford's most notorious bullies." Silence descended. Red's face reddened. "You recorded us without permission. You harassed a disabled woman in public," Amia responded evenly. "You don't get to claim privacy when you never granted her dignity." Behind the counter, the waitress, the one who had ignored everything yesterday, finally looked up. Her mouth opened, then closed. Then she turned and retreated to the back. Vic grabbed Red's arm. "Let's go." But Red remained in place. "You think some likes and shares make you right?" "No," Amia replied. "They make you seen." That landed harder than anticipated. Red stared at Trinity, whose expression remained composed, dignified, centered. "Gonna cry again, little girl?" he muttered. Trinity didn't flinch. "No, I'm going to let you finish your tantrum, and then I'm going to continue living here, eating here, working here, because this is my town, too." Red stepped forward. Amia stood. She didn't raise her voice, didn't clench her fists. She simply stated, "You have 30 minutes. Choose carefully." For a moment, no one moved. Then Red turned. "Come on." Vic and Lenny followed. The door slammed behind them forcefully enough to rattle the salt shakers. Outside, the cold had intensified. The sidewalk sparkled with frost. Inside, the cafe remained still. Amia sat down slowly. Trinity exhaled. "I was trembling," Trinity confessed, her voice hushed. "I know," Amia answered, "but you didn't let them see it. That's power." At a nearby table, a man in a Carhartt jacket gave a single, subtle nod. A woman 2 booths down tapped something on her phone. Throughout the cafe, awareness was awakening. "They'll return," Trinity whispered. Amia glanced out the window, her expression determined. "So will we." By nightfall, the video had accumulated over 15,000 views. Amia hadn't planned this outcome. She simply wanted truth to exist outside of Brentford's silence. But once the clip reached several regional veterans groups and disability rights forums, it ignited. The caption she'd written above the video was brief. "Small town, big silence. When they push you down, stand anyway. Trinity Hayes seen, not silenced. Brentford truth." The next morning, Amaya sat on the steps of her rented room above the hardware store, sipping coffee from a chipped thermos. She scrolled through the comments. "I served. I see you, Trinity. Disgusting. Brentford should be ashamed. Thank you for not letting them erase her. Where's the sheriff in this situation? Those men need consequences." And then, inevitably, the opposing viewpoints. "Bet they edited it to appear worse. Why bring race into it? That girl should stay home if she's so sensitive. Typical activist nonsense?" Amia exhaled. The digital world had infiltrated the quiet streets of Brentford. And while some residents now whispered thanks to Trinity when she wheeled past, others stared more intensely, as if she'd violated an unwritten code. That afternoon, Trinity arrived at the cafe to discover the windows splattered with raw egg. A torn note was taped to the door. "Don't play the victim and you won't get hurt." Inside, the manager stood behind the counter, ashen-faced and perspiring. "I'm sorry," he said, eyes darting everywhere except at Trinity. "We didn't expect the video would spread this far." "You mean you didn't think anyone would care?" Amia interjected, entering behind her. I think it's best you two take a break from visiting. Just until things settle down." Trinity's mouth opened, then closed. She turned her chair away without comment. Outside, the bitter wind caught her scarf, whipping it sideways. She didn't adjust. Is it cowardice? She asked Amia softly. Or just fear disguised as courtesy? Amia didn't respond immediately. Instead, she crouched beside Trinity, bringing their eyes level. This town was conditioned to remain silent. You disrupted that pattern. That makes you dangerous. A pause. Are you afraid? Trinity asked. I used to be, Amia admitted. Now I'm just prepared. She reached into her coat and retrieved a small notebook. Inside were names, contacts, people from her former unit, people who owed her favors, people who believed in justice rather than noise. Trinity glanced down. You're summoning reinforcements. No, Amia corrected. I'm summoning witnesses. That evening, Red posted a clip to his own page. Grainy footage clearly captured on a phone showed Trinity slowly rolling away from the cafe. Head lowered, scarf fluttering like a surrender flag. His caption read, See, even the big-mouth sidekick couldn't keep her safe. No army in Brentford. Comments filled with jeers. The likes accumulated. Amia viewed the video while sitting in her truck. Engine off, hands cold. Her eyes didn't narrow. She didn't curse. She simply pressed record, aiming across, seated in the driver's seat. Dog tags visible, voice calm and measured. You're right, Red. Brentford doesn't have an army, but it's about to learn what honor looks like. You've got 30 minutes. She hit send. The clip uploaded, and the countdown began. The sound of tires on gravel was the first indication something had changed. At precisely 2:58 p.m., just as Red settled into his usual booth at the Rusty Mug Cafe, a matty gray SUV pulled into the parking. Not flashy, not loud, but unmistakable. Government-issued tires, tinted windows, license plate clean but unreadable in the glare. Inside, Red smirked as if nothing had changed. Vic twirled a toothpick between his fingers. Lenny tapped his boots, against the table base, glancing toward the entrance. A hush began to spread through the cafe like fog creeping under the door frame. Then the door opened. 3 figures entered. Not in uniform, but they didn't need to be. The first was broad-shouldered, bald, with a deliberate, measured gait that conveyed discipline rather than injury. The second, lean and silent, wore a heavy coat with a patch, from the 3rd Infantry Division. The third, a woman, moved like wind encased in steel, posture impeccable, eyes scanning as if still on patrol. They said nothing. They didn't need to. They walked past the tables like ghosts of every promise America ever made but failed to keep. When they reached the table where Trinity and Amia sat, they simply stood. Amia looked up. You're late. The bald man nodded once. Traffic. Trinity, seated in her chair with back straight and scarf securely tied, turned to them. Thank you. The female veteran briefly placed a hand on Trinity's shoulder. Not gentle, not forceful, just right. Then the bald man turned to face Red. We've read the comments, he stated calmly. Red leaned back, arms extended. What? Planning to teach me a lesson? No, the man replied. You already failed that class. He reached into his coat and unfolded a document, placing it on the table. A letter from a regional veterans board. Official complaint filed. Logged. Under review. Red's smirk tensed. The woman spoke next. You humiliated a disabled civilian. On record, you mocked her, threatened her, followed her, and now you've ridiculed a veteran who served alongside men and women just like us. She stepped closer. You believe this town will shield you, but it won't, because communities remember which side of history they occupied, especially when the evidence is this clear. Lenny shifted uncomfortably. Vic averted his gaze. He remained silent, but the flush in his face revealed something colder than fear. Exposure. Behind the counter, the cafe manager peered out. Customers abandoned pretense of reading. Phones emerged, some already recording. Amia stood. She approached Red's booth, placed her hand beside the folded complaint and said, "We warned you. 30 minutes." She stepped aside. Trinity moved forward. No announcement, no anger, just presence. She faced Red directly. "I'm not here to witness your apology. I'm here to ensure you never forget that I existed and you didn't break me." Red appeared as though he wanted to respond. He didn't. The bald man leaned in close, voice barely audible. "You created a lot of noise, but it only takes one woman moving forward to render you silent." Then they departed, all 5 of them, out the door into the daylight. A bench stood outside the cafe. Not new but freshly cleaned. Someone had placed a folded blanket on it, matching the pattern of Trinity's scarf. They sat together briefly. Amia, Trinity, and the 3 veterans. No words, just presence. Inside, Red stared at the door as if expecting it to close permanently. Outside, Trinity inhaled the late afternoon air, and for the first time in days, it didn't feel sharp. It felt like steel. The town transformed quietly. No celebrations, no headlines, no mayoral address. But a week following the confrontation at Rusty Mug Cafe, Red's motorcycle shop was closed for renovation. Vic stopped appearing at his usual bar, Stool. Lenny relocated from town. Or perhaps just underground. More significantly, something shifted in how Brentford viewed itself. At the grocery store, a teenager held the door for Trinity. At the post office, someone slipped a handwritten note into her mailbox. "We saw, we're sorry, thank you." The cafe reopened under new management. The name had changed slightly. The weathered, rusty mug sign had been replaced with hand-painted letters that now read, "Harmony Cafe." Inside, a corner table displayed a plaque, "Reserved for Courage." Underneath, a single line in brass, "Justice doesn't knock, it shows up." Trinity sat at that table now, stirring her coffee. No chili, no stain, just peace. Across from her, Amia tapped a folder against her palm. A grant application for a local initiative she and Trinity had established. Wheels Forward, a mentorship program for young women with disabilities. "You certain about this?" Amia inquired. "I'm not certain about anything," Trinity replied, smiling, "but I've learned that's not a reason to stop." A group of high school students entered, laughing, jackets unzipped. One recognized Trinity and offered a quiet, respectful nod. She acknowledged it in return. Outside the window, the bench remained, the one from that significant day. Someone had attached a small brass plate to it. Amia hadn't noticed before. She went outside to read it. "To those who roll forward, even when the road is cracked." She stood there a while, allowing the cold air to press against her cheeks. It didn't sting. It reminded her she was here, still standing. Inside, Trinity moved toward the counter where a young barista, new and nervous, struggled with the register. Trinity smiled and offered gentle guidance, showing her through the buttons. The girl relaxed. That was Trinity's gift. Not defiance, not noise, just presence. Amia observed from the doorway, hands tucked into her pockets. Dog, tags concealed beneath her collar once more. Some battles weren't fought with fists. They were fought with return visits, direct gazes, and a refusal to disappear. As Trinity wheeled back to the table, a boy, the same one who had recorded the first video, passed by with his father. He paused. "Miss Hayes," he said, "are you a hero?" Trinity regarded him thoughtfully. "No," she answered gently, "but I showed up." A moment passed. "That's what heroes do," the boy whispered before hurrying away. Amia stepped beside Trinity's chair. "Ready?" Trinity nodded. They moved together through the cafe and out onto the street. 2 women, 2 histories, 1 truth shared between them. No fanfare, no ceremony, just steady footsteps and rolling wheels, side by side into a town that finally saw them.